Well, here we are. I never imagined that it would take this long for the rubber to meet the road with respect to black people, African Americans, um, and their relationship to the American Christian Church, for it to not only start to unravel, but implode. I mean, think about it. There have been black churches bombed, people inside, multiple injuries, multiple deaths, children, by the way. There have been choir members rehearsing and mowed down by shooters inside of churches. Um, there has been the hold on people who look like me in this country, the mesmerizing hold of a dead white man on a cross, nailed to a cross. Um, it's funny to me that um, the powers that be will form and always create a God in their image. And with that image, they will hold sway over people's hearts, mind, thoughts over their entire lives and just dominate them. Um, but when it starts to unravel and fall apart, um, you cannot reverse it. You can't reverse it. And that's the case of what's happening here in America, and specifically to this rotten form of American evangelical Christianity that I've talked about in previous videos: the Heritage Foundation, the Jimmy Swaggarts, the Oral Roberts, these entities that are formed and have been formed out of pure hate and the notion that they are superior by virtue of their aesthetics, by virtue of the color of their skin. They by default consider themselves to be the highest of the high. And here we are. No, I am not one of the good ones, and I will never be one of the good ones. People who force themselves, shoehorn themselves into spaces where they know in their gut that they are not welcome, and they know that they are not wanted. But self-hate and self-loathing drives them. They would rather be accepted by those who have disdain for them rather than work to lift up the greater community of those from which they sprang. I will never be one of those type of people that, if you remember, and you were raised in any form of Christianity in America, you remember the Gaither homecomings, where they sing the Southern gospel music and the whole nine, and they have these elaborate stages, nice songs, nice singers, whatever. The messages were mostly based biblically. Obviously, there's a lot of gerrymandering with doctrine, again, in order to shift and shape things into their own image. But you would have these all-white stages with 200-300 people, and then you have Larnell Harris, you'll have a Babby Mason, I think the guy's name is Alvin Slaughter, Jesse somebody else, another guy. You have, a handful of people, and I don't know them personally, but I cannot imagine you being allowed to stand up there and sing, these good old gospel-y songs if you didn't vote with the greater mass of the people. I cannot imagine them allowing you to breach their space if you ever really voiced your opinion about how you felt about the political climate in America in relation to the color of your skin. I can't even imagine that. Think about it. You have songs like Farther Along, In the Garden, I come to the garden alone when the dew is still on the roses. And the guys would tell a story about C. Austin Miles, who wrote that song, and he often talked about some, sad old black man who used to drive C. Austin Miles around, and he wrote the song in the garden. How about the family favorite, Amazing Grace, written by a bitter racist, bitter racist, and one who would actually, it's documented that he would SA the children of slaves. How did he have access? Well, he had ships, and he had the money to go and import human beings from the African continent. And it was said that he ravaged the children of the people that he imported in. He wrote the song Amazing Grace. I wish I would sing that song. I'd cut my own lips off. But, history also goes on and says that there was a big storm, and the storm almost sank the ship, and he begged out and cried to God to save him. He was spared. I think God was busy that day. Anyway, he was spared. And as soon as the tragedy was over with, he doubled down on his selling and acquiring of human beings. And we stand flat-footed in these churches. A lot of people who look like me and will part their lips and they will sing that god-awful song. Amazing Grace as a song, I believe, is the epitome of what we're seeing here in America. Everybody's mourning, and not everybody, but a good swath of the country is mourning and screaming and crying over Charlie Kirk being shot and killed. And the thing that gets me more than anything, and I think that we have to look at, is that for these people today, you can be wicked to your core. And when I say wicked, this is an opinion. It's based on your actions. It's based on the words that you speak and the result of those words and those actions. It brings us down, not only as a country, but it brings us down, Jesus, as a species, it brings us down. You can be a hideous, horrible person, but if you say Christ is King, if you say Jesus is Lord, if you quote a verse every now and then, if you have any form of American evangelical Christianity, religiosity, blah, 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 within, your presentation, then it by default excuses everything that you do. This is why people will even hear this and disagree, but will still go to a church or somewhere and sit and sing God-awful Amazing Grace. Because again, the words are so beautiful and his grace is amazing. Sure, absolutely it is within the biblical context. But knowing who that person was who wrote that song, it does not affect them in any way, because regardless of what he did, after all, it was only, subhuman, Homo sapiens who have melanin. So, the song absolves him completely. Again, people rage scrolling through social media looking to see if you're not praising Charlie Kirk. People telling each other, leave your church if your church didn't recognize Charlie Kirk. The Dallas Cowboys football game, moment of silence, XYZ, and all of these other things. Idolatry is the hallmark of evangelical Christianity. It is the hallmark of the ones who brought the religion in its current form to these shores. These people detest the man called Jesus Christ. They detest his teaching. And with the madness of dispensationalism, even though in their minds he taught that, with his death on the cross, that put an end to it anyway. And that dude, Paul, who's all over the place, he's responsible for the greater bulk of the New Testament, and therefore what he says ends up going. Yeah, I will never be one of the good ones, and I will never force my way into a situation to where I'm not wanted. I don't desire it. I don't desire your label. I don't desire your idolatry, and I sure don't desire your platitudinal hocus pocus religion. Run, people with melanin, run. The Christ of the Bible is there, and he can be found, and he does not have to look like Andy Griffith. He who has an ear, let him hear.